as well, because that is extremely important, and that should give some signal that the government means business in containing the subsidy bill and the fiscal deficit. But then this is not going to be the end. We had to increase this price. The government had to increase these prices even as the international prices in dollar terms have been cooling. But mainly because the rupee has been losing its value, and then obviously you do need to address the issue of falling value of the rupee. The structural issues will have to be addressed. Yeah.
You're absolutely right, Mr. Rao, but on that crucial issue of diesel and LPG, while once again there's been a lot of talk about moving on that front, diesel continues to not be deregulated. Whether or not the government will finally take a decision at the level of the empowered group of ministers continues to be a question mark. Whether they will move on LPG continues to be a question mark. If they don't, then we're back to square one as far as the fiscal consolidation problem is concerned, is it not?
Absolutely. Because the subsidy bill on motor spirit is not a large sum. It's the diesel and it's basically diesel and the cooking oil, the cooking gas that's really causing a lot more of trouble. And then we do need to act on that front, not only because we need to contain subsidy, but we need to avoid distortions. You need to prevent adulteration. There are many reasons why you need to realign the prices.
VIKRAM, I want to bring up that point of distortion that Mr. Govinda Rao brought up, because if you look at diesel, the under recovery on every litre of diesel is a little over 13 rupees. It seems highly unlikely that the government is going to go all the way up to 13 rupees, if at all it does move. But it's only continued to distort the market by hiking petrol prices and by not moving on diesel.
Well, look, the hike in petrol prices is really a very nominal, will make a nominal dent on the subsidy burden. I mean, last year the oil companies lost 140,000 crores because of the subsidies, because of the under-recoveries in diesel, petrol, kerosene and LPG. Of that under-recovery of 140,000 crores, petrol accounted for, I think, only 13,000 crores. So there is no way that you're going to address the issue of the subsidy burden unless you actually tackle diesel price, kerosene price and LPG price head on. So that's the first point. The second is that you don't need to necessarily move diesel prices to international parity in one go. You can do it incrementally if you want. You can come up with ways in which you could have differential prices. There are two grades of diesel in the country, BS4 and BS3. BS4 diesel is used by people who run SUVs and other such large vehicles. Now, I'm not saying that this will be without complications. Differential pricing always leads to distortions. But the point that I think we have to really understand is that unless the government starts to address the issue of product pricing and rationalizes petroleum product pricing and moves towards the rationalization of that, we're going to find investor sentiment not just with regard to the petroleum sector, but with regard to the totality of the private sector investors in very, very eroded. And unless we do something about that, I think the vulnerability of the Indian economy, both on the external front and on the domestic front, that is the current-account deficit and the fiscal deficit, will remain as severe as it is today. So VIKRAM, we cannot take, we should not just rest on the fact that the government has sort of moved in the direction of rationalization of petrol prices as indicative of something that's substantive. It is not.
VIKRAM Mehta,
There's a lot more that needs to be done.
VIKRAM Mehta, I'm going to stop you there and take up this point about differential pricing. While there have been reports from within the government that this is not going to be easy to do, what about taxation? Because this is a point that is being missed in this entire debate. The tax burden on the retail prices still continues to be well over 50% on an average. Can't the government look at that as far as consumers are concerned?
Yes, they should look at that too. I mean, tax is, if the government was to reduce the excise duty and the customs duty on crude oil, for example, it would then lead to a lower refinery gate price. It would also lead to a lower sales tax imposed on petroleum companies in the states, and it would thereby actually provide the oil companies with a double benefit, which is a reduced taxation, reduced central taxes as well as reduced state taxes. Now that's one way of bringing the oil companies' balance sheet back to some degree of health.
Right. Hold that thought there. Let me go on this same point to Mr. Govinda Rao. Mr. Govinda Rao, we have for the last 5 years seen so many reports which talk about a holistic realignment for this entire sector, yet we have seen cherry picking of the worst sort. Is it now time to at least address these fundamental issues? Because if you are not going to do that, you will every time have either a rupee or an international crisis leading to such ad hoc decision making.
It's very easy to say that you should realign, and that obviously that should be an objective for the medium term. But at this particular moment, if you start saying that I will take a holistic view, there are going to be serious problems. The problems is, I know that you see almost 30 to 35% of excise duty, customs duty and sales taxes are collected from the petroleum products.
Yeah.
But the fact of the matter is, if you do not, you also should realize that one of the major reasons for our current account deficit is the import bill on crude oil.
Sure.
Last year, for example, import bill on crude oil and import of gold were the two major items that actually has caused a huge gap in the current account deficit.
It's not going to be easy for them, as you're pointing out, Mr. Govinda, to move on that front. But I want to ask you about the issue of inflation, because that is going to be a key consideration if the government were to actually hike diesel prices. Petrol hike, not much impact on inflation, but diesel hike will have an impact on inflation. Are we going to have to live with it?
See, the point that I'm making is that if you don't levy if you do not have the prices according to the scarcity value of the commodity, demand will continue to be high, and obviously you will continue to have the current account deficit on this account, huge import bill on this account. So therefore it is necessary to price it according to the petroleum products according to the scarcity value, so that you see at least in the medium term you will have a better alignment of demand.
Okay.
Now that is the reason why I said at this stage you should not. If you reduce the taxes, then obviously you will again end up with a huge fiscal deficit.
Yeah.
Are you prepared to do that?
Fair point.
Are we ready to live with that?
Fair point. Vikram, the final comments from you. We had the chief economic advisor a short while ago talking to us, and that was before the fuel price hike had actually come in, and he said he hoped there would be a designed move towards moving on fuel prices. Is a designed move really possible? Because look at what's happened on petrol prices. Deregulated, yet since December, oil marketing companies have not been allowed to move on this particular commodity. Can we really talk about calibrated, designed action as far as this commodity is concerned? Or will political sensitivities, political consideration always weigh in?
Well, you've just answered the question. Clearly you can, in theory, have a designed approach, a calibrated approach to rationalizing prices. Politics comes in the way, and good politics always seems to trump good economics. But let's just face the reality. If this situation continues, the oil companies will run out of cash. If they run out of cash, they stop paying their suppliers. If they stop paying their suppliers, our import bill will certainly come down, but we will have long queues on our retail outlets, and that in turn will have a massive political fallout.
Right.
So no one is going to give you oil for free. Let's just be absolutely clear. 85% of our oil is imported. We cannot afford to continue to de-link ourselves from the international market. The silver lining on all this, of course, is that the price of crude oil has fallen by almost $15 over the last 3 months. So certainly depreciation of rupee has offset that.
Yeah.
But can you imagine if the price was to reverse?
Yeah,
if there was a crisis in the Middle East?
Right. It's unfortunate that we haven't